there, Disney peeps. I'm here today with a new video to talk about planning a solo trip. So basically, there's not a whole lot that's different between planning a solo trip and planning a regular trip. So I have about 9 tips for you today about what is different, what to think about when you're planning a solo trip versus a regular trip. Or, well, not a regular trip, they're all regular trips, versus a trip with people, with friends or family. So, I also have my dog kind of locked in here right now, so she may make noise in the background, just so you all know. Okay, so my first tip for planning your solo trip is to be selfish and put yourself first. So this is like your one excuse, or one time, or maybe multiple times, but one time you can do what you want. You're going on vacation, it's just you. Maybe you have to keep up with work or something at home while you're there, but you get to put you first, especially on a solo trip, because it's just you. You don't have to do the thing that's going to make your boyfriend happy, or your girlfriend, or your best friend, or your kid, or your parent, whoever you're traveling with. You don't have to make compromises. You don't have to say, oh, you want to do this, and I want to do that. And then make a decision based on what you both want to do. You know, maybe it means riding Haunted Mansion when you don't really want to. Or, you just said, oh, you're going to go ride that ride and I'm going to go shopping. You don't have to do anything like that. You just get to do what you want to do, which is actually really nice. So, do what you want to do. If you want to go eat at Chef Mickey's every meal of your trip, do it. If you want to go, I can't think of anything else. If you want to go do all the tours, do that. If you want to spend 3 days in Disney Springs, do that. If you want to do a monorail hop, or the monorail tour thing, do that. If you want to do 3 or 4 different tours, do that. If you want to see how many times in a row you can ride It's a Small World, do that. Yeah, that's it. If you want to ride if you want to ride the teacups 30 times in a row, do that. Just do what you want to do. This is your chance to put yourself first. And do what you want to do. Maybe it's something, your family doesn't want to do, or maybe you have young kids and they can't ride Space Mountain, but it's your favorite, so you ride Space Mountain 30 times because you don't have the little ones with you. You don't have to deal with rider swap, and you don't have to, your significant other just wants to ride it once and then move on to the People Mover or something. I don't know. But ride it 30 times. Ride Buzz Lightyear till you get Galactic Hero. Your decision. Do what you want to do. So that's tip number 1. Number 2 is to fear nothing. If you want to do it, do it. It really piggybacks off of what I just said, but don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of waiting in line to meet Mickey and Minnie if you don't have kids with you. Don't, stop and take the pictures. Meet all the characters. Do the Sophia the First, she's not there anymore. Do the Playhouse Disney Junior, whatever it's called now. Do the Disney Junior Hollywood and Vine breakfast. Meet Racer, Goofy, and Vampirina, and I forget who's off there now. But, do that if that's what you want to do. Do the character meals, like I said. Do breakfast with the princesses. Do dinner at Cinderella's Royal Table, although I think that's actually a fairly adult thing. But, either way, you get the drift. Do what you want to do. Don't be afraid of it. Ride Barnstormer 30 times. Apparently 30 is the magic number today, I don't know. But, again, fear nothing, just do it. If you want to do it, do it. It isn't much different. My third tip isn't really a tip. More of a trick, I guess. But not really either. I don't know. It's just advice, I guess. So number 3 is, it's not much different as far as time of year and stuff like that. So like the time of the, if you want to go in the summer, spring, fall, whatever, your planning process for a solo trip is not going to be much different. It all depends on what you want, when you want to go. You know when the busier times are, you know when the slower times are, what else is going on. Like, when you guys see this video, it's been a good chunk, about a month, I think. So about 13 months, like, technically, since I had been there last. So the difference between last January and this January is sounding like it's quite different, but a lot of that has to do with Rise of the Resistance having only opened last December. So I think we're still seeing a lot of crowds from that, and people know January is a slower time to go, so they may have put off visiting necessarily in December when Rise of the Resistance first opened and keeping up with the holiday crowds, and they may have chosen to wait till January thinking it would be a little slower. But when everyone thinks that way, then the crowds get bigger. So, you know, there's only so much predicting you can do crowd-wise. But again, it just depends. Like, maybe you don't care. Maybe it's, you know, maybe you're a teacher and you can only go in the summer. You don't really have an option. Then just go when you can. But, like, basically, there's no difference in timing wise for a solo trip. Like, just make that decision on your own. Weather-based would probably be where I would more bet my decision than crowd-based, because crowd stuff is really varying, especially lately. So I would say probably, like, based on weather. Like, January was great weather-wise if you're not a hot weather person. That was a great choice for me. So I would say, you know, but like I said, make the choice. That doesn't really impact. Nothing is going to be different on a solo trip than it would be on a family trip based on the time of year that you go. I forgot which number I'm on. Number 4. Don't be afraid of dining. This is and I had asked on my Instagram about what you guys would want to see in this video. Like, what did you want to hear more about solo trip wise? Like, what were you scared of? What were you, what's keeping you from doing it other than just having kids or a husband or whatever that you want to come with you? And the number one thing I heard about was dining and food. So I get it. Dining on your own can be scary. This is a total personal preference. As I say with pretty much everything when it comes to, planning a Disney trip, it's all like personal preference. Every person's going to be different. Every family's going to be different. Every group is going to be different. Every trip is going to be different because Disney will change things. But basically, I will say from my experience, there's no reason to be afraid of a table service unless it's something that really does make you extremely uncomfortable. I think I've mentioned it in other videos that I've never been one to be uncomfortable eating alone. So table services don't really bother me alone, but they may. But that's okay because Disney has plenty of quick service options. I generally prefer Disney's table service options to their quick service options. So a lot of times, I'm glad that's something I'm comfortable with, is going to the table service meals alone. But I really don't think it's something you need to be afraid of. And I am going to do, my next video actually kind of ties into the dining theme a little bit. So we will talk a little bit more about that in future videos. But I would say don't be afraid of it. That's like my biggest solo dining trip. Dining tip. I said trip. My biggest solo dining tip is don't be afraid of it. You'll be fine. I didn't, a lot of times I sat there on my phone. I'll admit that. But that's fine. Bring a book if that's something you're comfortable with. Bring your phone. That's when I didn't spend necessarily as much time, just sitting and hanging out or whatever this trip. I did a little bit more go, do all the things. So that's kind of when I would social media catch up. But I actually found myself or I had breakfast one morning at Ohana at the Poly, and I got sat at a table where I could see the castle out the window and I could see the boats going across the lake and watch people walking up, to the boat docks and through the pool area and through the center area of the resort. People watch. That's another thing at a lot of the restaurants you can do. Not all. but some. You can kind of people watch. I did a lot of character meals, so, you know, I didn't necessarily just watch my interaction. I'd watch what was going on at the tables around me. And you can do that without being obnoxious and hogging people's moments with the characters or whatever. But yeah, bring a phone, bring your phone, bring your book, catch up on social media. You know, read a little something, just have a nice time. The servers and waiters and stuff are usually pretty engaging. I, you know, didn't really have any issues with that per se, and I would, you know, not something I'd be worried about. And it seems like they kind of get it, like when you're alone, and they'll read off you, because I had a lot of, when I was at the end of the trip when I was sick, I was a lot less like, I really don't want to like start a conversation with you because I just don't feel good, compared to the beginning of the trip where I was kind of like, oh yeah, we can talk, like that's cool, whatever. So they do kind of, they'll feel you out at the beginning and kind of try to figure out like, oh, is this person like gonna want to talk to me, or am I, you know, like, should I just back off and like let them be on their own? They're relatively good about figuring that out, I found. So, and even at the character meals, and like I said, I'll talk about this a little bit more in another video. But even at the character meals, they were all, like, the servers were super helpful and were just like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll take your picture. Like, I mean, I had a couple guys that just, like, hung around my table, like, and they were, like, ready as soon as, like, a character came, and it was like, oh, here I am. Like, so, you just know, yeah, it's great. It's not something to be afraid of. And there wasn't even another meal I did where I did run into someone else who was dining solo. They were at the table next to me. I mean, we didn't, like, end up eating together or whatever, but it was like, hey, look, fellow solo diner, how's it going, you know? So it's not something weird. No one thinks you're weird because you're eating alone. It just depends really on how comfortable you are with, like, being alone with your thoughts, basically. And, you know, can you stay occupied for a couple minutes on your phone, maybe, like, while you wait for your food to come? Or while you wait for the next character to come, or stuff like that. You know, I'd send pictures home, I'd download PhotoPass pictures while I ate, I'd just, you know, catch up on stuff. I'd go through my fast passes for the day, change anything I wanted to change the day of. I do a lot of breakfasts at Disney, so that's, you know, it's a good time to kind of come up with a plan for the day. If I had a lunch or a dinner, you know, I'd kind of be like, okay, what are we doing next? Where are we going? Are we going to Disney Springs? Are we going to do another ride? What time are we, you know, what time is this event at? What's the game plan for the afternoon? So it really, like I said, it depends on your comfort level. Quick service is always an option if it's, you know, somewhere where it's like, oh, I just want to eat really quick and get out of there because I'm really uncomfortable eating alone. That's fine. And there, like I said, there's great quick service options everywhere too, but don't shy away from the table service just because you're alone. So tip number 5, I think was the biggest learning curve for me. You will accomplish more than you think you can. So take your time, go slow, stop and smell the roses is what I have written on my paper. So I went in with a plan in mind and a list of things I wanted to accomplish during my trip, and I accomplished them in probably about 5 days, like 4 or 5 days. Like maybe the first half of day 5, I was kind of starting to go, oh, I did everything I was going to do. Okay, now what? Which is actually the same thing that happened last time I took a long 10-day trip. About day 5, 6, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I am done with the things I wanted to do. Now what? Because I had planned so much for my 7-day trip that I took when I turned 21 that I was sad when I left because I felt like I didn't get to do everything I wanted to do. And then, so then I booked a longer trip and went for 10 days and tried to cram basically 7+ days of stuff into 10 days. But because I was thinking, oh, I have to get it all done, because I didn't get everything I wanted done last time, I did it so fast that I had a bunch of time left over and was like, ooh. And I cut some stuff, you know, I was like, okay, I don't need to do that, oh, I don't need to do that, oh, I don't need to do that. this time or whatever, so I can do this other thing I didn't do last time. And I'll admit, I still honestly haven't done everything I want to do. Like, I usually come home and then see something and then be like, oh man, I wanted to do that and I didn't do it. You know, like, I wanted, what was it? There was something this time that I really wanted to do and I didn't do it. Just because time ran out and I can't remember what it was now. But there was something, I like got home and I was like, oh man, I was going to do that. And I never did it. And it was like 3 weeks after I got home. So, you will never accomplish everything you want to do, but as a solo traveler, you will get through things faster than you think. Because you lose the time of like, but what do you want to do now? What do you want to do now? What, you know, like, what do you want to eat? I don't know, what do I, you know, and then you fight about everything. Okay, maybe not fight, you argue. My puppy is sleeping and dreaming over there. But still, you'll get through things faster because it's just you and you just go do what you want to do. Sometimes you get on rides faster if you take advantage of rides that are single rider. I don't really ride any of the rides that are single rider lines, so it's not something I really take advantage of necessarily. But like, that will speed things up a lot of times if you do ride some of the bigger rides. And you just, like I said, you miss the whole, like, back and forth of what do you want to do, what do you want to do, what do you want to do. Like, you just do what you want to do. So it takes a lot less time. So like I said, even this trip, I had like 3 days planned for Epcot, I think. I had 1 full day for Future World, 1 full day for World Showcase and all the Festival Art stuff. And then I think I had a 3rd day to catch anything that I thought I missed. Well, it worked out fine because the 3rd day I ended up sick, so I didn't want to do anything anyway, and I didn't feel like I had to because I did everything I wanted to do already. But I got Epcot done in a day, honestly. By the time I was like, I think I had like a half an hour or something at Epcot, and I was like, well, everything is done. Don't really know what to do. So I think I went and did something again. So again, you know, like, you can always fill the extra time because you can always go back to your favorite thing and do it twice because you're solo and no one's going to tell you already did that. So that's, you know, that's always an option. But just remember, you can slow down, take your time, sit on Main Street and eat a cake pop, or a Mickey ice cream bar, or whatever. And just remember, you can do that because everything will take a lot less time than you think it will. Okay, so tip number 6 is know yourself. This has kind of been an underlying theme throughout the video, but basically you have to, if you're going to go solo, you have to know yourself. You have to know what you're comfortable with. No, I shouldn't say that. You can take a solo trip if you're uncomfortable with it. You can't enjoy yourself if you're uncomfortable with the idea of a solo trip. So basically, you have to know, like, is traveling on your own something you're comfortable with? Is being on your own something you're comfortable with? Because not everyone can, like, handle being on their own. There are people who just need to be around people, and it's just the fact of it. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with being, you know, a little more introverted and fine being on your own for days at a time. You just have to know yourself and what you're comfortable with. And if you're someone who's like, oh, I need to be around people, but I really want to go to Disney and no one wants to go with me and I kind of want to try a solo trip, then try a solo trip. But maybe only go for 3 days. Maybe do a long weekend. Compared to going and taking like a vacation, like a 10-day vacation or something. You just have to know what you're comfortable with. And same thing with the dining. You have to know, are you comfortable being on your own? Are you comfortable, whatever, you don't, what I'm trying to say, you just have to know what you're comfortable with and do what you're comfortable with. The scariest part for me was flying. I'm not necessarily the most comfortable flying on my own. I don't expect that to change anytime soon, but it's something I can deal with. I'm getting more comfortable with it. I'm traveling a little bit more than I had in the past, so I'm not as scared about it as I used to be. And I think there's just like a certain just like nervousness that comes whenever you travel that doesn't really go away. But that would be, you know, my biggest tip is just know what you're comfortable with, whatever. You know, you have to kind of be comfortable with yourself and knowing like you can keep yourself safe to a degree, because you do have to like pay attention to what's going on around you. a little bit more necessarily, just because there isn't anyone else there with you. And along that line, like safety tips, I don't actually have this written down, but it's a good thing to talk about for going solo. Make sure you give someone your plans. I always give my plans to a couple different people, so that they know where I am. So like if I don't reach out to them, or you know, they can't get a hold of me or something, they know where I should be at least. And I try to keep them updated throughout the day so they know where I am, what I'm doing, whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily post much on social media. Little bits on Instagram, but usually like hours after I leave somewhere. So like I may be sitting at lunch and post a picture of me in front of the castle on Instagram from that morning, but I may be somewhere else, or even, you know, whatever. So I try not to, like I said, I try not to post on social media too much, like real time. Again, somebody always knows, some family member or something always knows where I am, and then you just always make sure you're aware of what's happening around you, and you're pretty much set at that point, as far as like safety stuff. But again, that comes down to, are you comfortable with it? Do you feel like, yeah, I can be safe with myself, I'm not, you know, and I noticed it, you know, it was different. I was a lot more aware of things that were happening around me, you know, this time on my own compared to past trips. But for the most part, like I said, Disney's a very safe place to be, and it's a great place to travel on your own because of that. So just like I said, you just have to be aware of your surroundings because anything can happen anywhere. But basically, yeah, you just have to know yourself, be aware of everything, all that kind of stuff, and what you're comfortable with. Okay, happier topics now. Yay! Tip number 7, splurge on yourself if you can. Part of being solo means usually less cost because you're paying for one person instead of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. So I always kind of try to buy one thing or two things that are kind of special about a trip. So whether it was like when I did Pirates League a couple years ago, or the Character Couture makeover this time, or a tour, one time, you know, I did the behind the scenes tour, or just the after hours too. I was kind of a special event, a dessert party, early morning magic or something like that, an after hours event, I think I said that. But basically, like, I just always try to do something special when I'm down there all the time, but it is a little easier to do it when it's just you, and it's a little easier to buy something that might be a little more expensive when it's just you, because it really takes the cost down a little bit because it's just one person. So, like I said, splurge on something special if you can, whether it's a resort upgrade, or a tour, or a dessert party, or a signature meal maybe that you wouldn't normally try because your kids don't like that food or whatever. You know, just treat yourself. Treat yourself is basically the lesson in that one. And then tip number 8, PhotoPass. As a solo traveler, take advantage of your PhotoPass. Number one thing I would recommend for any solo trip is to buy Memory Maker. It's super, super useful. And you can get really great photos that aren't selfies. You don't feel weird asking a random stranger next to you, hey, can you take my picture? If that's your splurge for PhotoPass, if that's your one extra thing that you would never ever buy on another trip because you go with other people, buy the PhotoPass, buy Memory Maker. Those photographers, you get some bad photos every now and again, system glitches where photos are missing, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's worth it. And if you buy Memory Maker, you get all the pictures. I've gotten up to like 300 to 500 pictures just from PhotoPass photos, and they are amazing and great for solo traveling because it's just selfies all day long, unless you're someone who's comfortable asking someone to take your picture, and I'm not one of those people. So I'm not like a strike up conversation with the person next to me type of person. So that is huge for me, PhotoPass, hands down. I buy it every trip anyway, just because I love having the photos. But I actually have a t-shirt that says I'm here for the photos. But yeah, 100% PhotoPass, hands down, like basically a must-have for a solo trip. Okay, and tip number 9, my last and final tip. It's not even really a tip, but my advice is to just enjoy yourself. Take your time. Like I said, take all those tips into account, all those thoughts, everything, and just enjoy yourself. Have fun. Do what you want to do. Do, something different. Do something crazy. Do the same thing you've done 20 million times before. Just do what you want and enjoy yourself. Enjoy the time there. Soak up the magic. Refill your pixie dust. Just enjoy yourself. That's the biggest tip I can give you. It's just like any other trip to Disney. Whether you're, going solo for the first time or the 100th time, or you've gone with your family and now you want to try to go on your own, or maybe you're leaving for Disney College program and you don't know anyone there yet and you want to try to get a couple days in at the parks beforehand. I met a girl while I was down there this last time who that was what was going on. Her mom was on her way down, but she had already arrived and she wanted to go and hang out, and so she was there alone too. So just, go enjoy yourself. That's all that matters. And as yourself, as a solo person, you really are all that matters at that point. So basically, go enjoy yourself and just have the time of your life like you would if it was any other trip to Disney. And that's all I have for today's video. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And I will see you in a few weeks with another video about a little bit more about dining. And have a Disney day.